This is Nick George with Clouds Diamond Sharpening, just to show you how to tell when your clipper needs a service. Alright, let's go down to the workbench here. Alright, if you use, let's say the Andis SMC, and you groom, 10 dogs a day, and you pay $25 of services every 3 months to keep it running, that's minimal maintenance. And if you let all this stuff go bad, and then you don't use oil on your blades, it breaks all this and it starts breaking pieces off the motor. So if you don't use oil, you should get your clipper serviced, and if you do use oil, you should get your clipper serviced to keep the price down and keep it running at 100% and full speed. So here's an Andis SMC 5-speed. See, I wobble it and it doesn't move. I can move the motor, but as far as the bearing doesn't wobble. You look at the edges, they're not rounded off. That's good. None of these are broke. The cam isn't broke inside. I recommend getting services because if that cam's broken, you can replace this drive and put the blade on, and the blade is barely going to move. It'll probably leave lines, maybe even pull hair, depending on how much it doesn't move. It's super important. You can get all your blades sharpened and then put it on a clipper, and if the clipper is bad, the blades won't work correctly. Super important to get your clipper serviced. It's generally $25 depending on, now if you wait every year and then you bring it in, well, that motor's been getting hot for a year, everything is worn out, you're gonna spend like $65. You'll be replacing a motor, I promise. I see it all the time. Services are super important to keep them running. Just like you have to get oil changes to keep your car running, same thing, guys. You gotta get them serviced. Especially like trimmers, Andis, MLs, Gs, you gotta service those and sharpen them to get them running at 100%. Now I'm just gonna go through and so you can see if your clipper's good or not. First of all, the blade should latch. So I can't lift it up. Even if you're a barber, it shouldn't lift up very much. Very easy, because you got a pressure sensitive hinge. The groomers have latches on their clippers. See how it latches? That's good. If you pull this and it lifts up like that, well, then when you go into hair, it's going to lift up like that, and it's not going to move the blade because the lever's not touching it. Make sure they latch. First sign that you need service would be the noise or heat buildup. These collect hair inside here, and almost all clippers do. You need to clean that hair out to remove, so the motor doesn't get hot and then the heat stays in there with the hair around it. It needs to be able to breathe. If these vents are closed with hair, this clipper is going to get super hot and it just won't cut very well. It's best, see that lever? See that hole? Well, that lever goes in this hole and it moves it back and forth. See how I have to move my finger left to right? So does that lever. Now, if it's just moving a little bit like that, well, it isn't going to cut. It's going to leave lines. It has to move 100%. And that's what I ensure happens, is I fix these clippers to run as new or even better. I am told better than new. Because, factory condition is not adjusted, it's just put together. I adjust everything, I replace the brushes, I grease the gears, and I oil the shaft on the armature and put oil in the field. All that stuff needs oil. Friction causes heat, no oil causes more friction, and more heat is bad. You don't want these blades getting super hot because you don't oil them. Alright, so here's the 76. We'll just go through here, pop this on. See, I can lift it, but not very easy. Now if it just pops up real easy, then you need to replace the hinge. That doesn't lift up very easy. If you take the lever and it's rounded, you gotta get it maintenance, because then it won't hit all the way. It'll just hit a little bit because the only little bitty nub moving in there is getting it. If your cord is bad, you need it serviced. Basically, if your clipper doesn't work right and needs to be serviced, I would recommend setting it aside when it stops working correctly, because it doesn't work correctly. I set it aside, and then when you send your blades into me, send that clipper in and I'll make sure it works with your blades, or any blade. Okay, so for example, if this bearing was bad and you replace this drive, it might feel like it still works, but as you run it for a little bit, that bearing's not moving very good, and then all of a sudden you just put a $7 drive on there, and it's only been a week and it doesn't work anymore. Well, then you try to put another drive on there, and then it doesn't work at all. You got to get the parts replaced. So just replacing this lever doesn't always fix the problem. Sometimes it's the bearing inside there. Sometimes if all your blades are rattling, it's because these little ears right here, they go on each side of this hinge to hold it straight. So when they get bent out a little bit, it starts rattling. But also, if you have a bad hinge, then so many latched blades keep hitting those sides, and then eventually all your blades are wobbling. So then you need to replace this hinge. And so when you send them to me, I check everything. I take them all the way apart. I check the bearing, I check the drive, I check the hinge, check the latch, check the cord, check the PC board, check the motor, check the transformer. I check it all. Just go ahead and send them on to me. If you're not sure if your clipper needs a service, well, just send it to me and I will tell you. I promise. If it doesn't need a service, I will not service it. But most of the time, these clippers need services about every 3 months, and it just doesn't. What you're paying for is for me to check everything on your clipper. Now you can look on my videos and see how to do the drive. That's fine. Do your own drive. That's fine. But if you want it fully running, because that's the first thing I'm going to ask you if you say some of my blades didn't work, or my blades didn't work. That's the first thing we're going right to here on the clipper. The clipper has to move that blade at 100%, or it's like using scissors and just having 10-inch scissors and you're only doing this instead of this. The blades are just, why have a 10-inch scissor? Well, same thing. Why have all these teeth if you're not going to move the blade all the way for it to cut? It's pointless. Clippers do need to be serviced. So my wife averages about $25 repair every 3 to 6 months. But she oils her blades, so if you don't oil your blades, these clippers have to work a lot harder, and then you're going to replace this bearing, you're going to replace this bearing, you're going to replace this lever, you're going to replace this bearing, just because you don't use oil. The clipper needs to move easy. If it doesn't move easy like that, then this clipper has to work way harder. Then the armature heats up, and then you melt the plastic coating off the armature coil, the wires, and then it has no plastic coating. So then it starts shorting out on the post down here. Then you get a clipper that doesn't turn on all the time or runs not a steady speed. Super important to get these serviced. You don't want to let the motor go bad. $25 is a hinge and a drive. That's about $30. But that's a $30. So that's like the most you should be repairing your clipper. Now if you send these in and this all orange up here, you're not oiling your blades, 99% of the time they need a motor, or because they break this bearing and you can't replace that bearing. Do not ruin your motors. The motor is so important. Once you use rusted blades or unoiled blades, then you break this bearing, and the motor bearing. The motor's $150, the Enduro kit's $24, and the bearing's $7.99. You don't want all that stuff to break. And then minimal people, they just send it in. I replaced the lever, and it's $22 if they use oil, just for a lever. Need a hinge, $32. There you go, it's done. But then it comes in, it's all orange, this is rounded off. I have to replace the motor, and then you got like a $230 repair on this lobby. And this, you know, you let the hair build up, and you know, and you put grease over here. First of all, if you don't know where the grease goes, you shouldn't work on these. This is a grease catcher. It's to catch the bad grease so it doesn't keep circulating in the gear and the link. So I put fresh grease in it, and I remove all that. I clean all the hair around the field and the armature. I make sure your switch is working correctly. I check your brushes. I check everything. I check your posts, see if this is broken in your case. Get your clipper service is super important. Even brand new blades, sharpened blades, professionally engineered blades, whatever you want to call it, is not going to work if this lever is bad. If the lever is bad, you're already out of business. If the motor is bad, you're out of business. If the latch is out, well, you just made your job a lot harder because you're going to have to hold that blade down. Or tape, I seen electrical tape. That didn't work very well, but you could do whatever you need to do. What I recommend is having 2 sets of clippers. Send one of them with your items, then I check it, I make sure it runs correctly. Just like if you don't get your oil changed and you keep driving your car, eventually that motor's going to stop working. Same thing. You don't grease these, you don't ever change parts, you're just going to be miserable at your job all the time. Look how crisp that is. And you know, and you send it in for a service, and I will replace that almost every time if it's been 3 months, because it's your lever. It's a $5 piece. You don't want to be out of business because you wanted to save $5. It's not even worth repairing then if this is bad. So for example, if your link is bad, this will wobble. If this is bad, it won't go into the lever or the cutter of the clipper blade. If your shaft is broken, you can have play right there. So sometimes it always isn't just a link and lever to fix the problem. You know, if you snap on a blade that's rusted or no oil and it pops on there, it won't break the lever, it won't break the link, it won't break the gear, but it'll break the housing where the gear is sitting. I promise. Trust me, I see it all the time. And they get broken. You gotta oil your blades. You know, and if your clipper's not running, it's just not an armature or a switch or a cord all the time. It could be brushes. It could be the motor mount wire inside the field came off. It could be one of your wires broke inside. So when you run into a problem, it's best to send it to me and not just keep trying to like get it to work and jiggle the cord, because then all of a sudden you're jiggling the cord because it's short now, and then all of a sudden the wires touch together and there's just smoke everywhere, and then you're in a motor, you're in a switch, you could ruin your brushes. I mean, it's just crazy. So when something goes bad on your clipper, set it aside. Go ahead and send on some blades. I recommend having 10 blades, own at least 10 blades to use me. Send 5 of them, and then your clipper. And then when you get those back, send the other 5 in your other clipper. To oil your blades, keep your clipper serviced. Subscribe to my videos. Keep it sharp, keep it oiled, keep it looking good. And thank you for this clipper maintenance demonstration. I hope I helped. If not, ask some questions. Cool. Bye.